What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video. Definitely do me a huge favor, smack up that like button and subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content. On the channel, we're covering the Arizona Cardinals news, breaking news, conversational pieces, everything surrounding your favorite team. And as of right now, we are 1 week away for this preseason to end. We got the Raiders coming our way here. We still don't know if starters will be playing. We haven't heard anything from Jonathan Gannon yet, but we do got a good friend of mine here, Theo Mackey of AZ Central. We got him up here to go ahead and chop it up with us to kind of give us a little bit of the insight of what's going on within the Arizona Cardinals training camp and obviously getting ready for the Raiders. So up and foremost, Theo, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for taking the time to come on here. I want to get started here real quick with the joint practice. I was very much following your tweets, you and Josh Weinfuss of ESPN as well, kind of getting a glimpse of what happened in Denver, because Sean Payton has that rule where you can't record, you can't put those videos online. So that's kind of usually what I have to kind of go based off of my own eyes. But I kind of lived through what you were giving us in terms of the tweets. So I want to kind of get a glimpse of how you felt the overall joint practice went, because we all saw week 2. It was a bad performance from the Arizona Cardinals second and third stringers, and just, I guess, depth in general. But I want to kind of get a gauge of, is that what you saw in joint practice? Now, obviously, first stringers compared to second, third stringers, but give me a gauge of what you saw in joint practice.
The joint practice was much, much better for the Cardinals than the game itself. I would say that the Broncos were the better team in the joint practice overall. Their offense just looked a little bit more explosive, a little more consistent. I think like the best example of this, and I think I tweeted this out, the first teams would always be on, there are 2 fields there in Denver, and the first team offenses would be going against the first team defenses at the same time. And at the end of practice, they ran a 2-minute drill. They had like a minute 30 on the clock. Teams had to go 70 yards. And you're watching both of these drives unfold at the same time. And the Broncos are down to like the Cardinals 20, and the Cardinals are like at their own 40, like picking up 3 yards of play, and the Broncos are like picking up 15 yards of play. So like that was the best example of kind of the difference of, okay, it's really clicking for the Broncos. It's a little more inconsistent for the Cardinals. That said, there were a lot of positives, right? I mean, Trey McBride was incredible in that practice. Like it was just 30-yard gain after 30-yard gain. The pass rush was good, which is something like that is not reflected in terms of how the ball's moving. Because I think Calais Campbell said this, like a bunch of their big plays would have been, the Broncos' big plays would have been sacks or pressures, but like you let up and they end up finding a guy downfield. Well, that's not how that's going to work in a game. You're not letting up when you get to the quarterback. So pass rush was good. Trey McBride was good. Late in the practice, Marvin Harrison Jr. came on. Cardinals O-line was also like struggled a little bit early. It was good late in the practice. The run D, based on kind of what the players were saying, and even what some of the Broncos guys were saying, the Cardinals run D was good. That's a really hard thing to observe in a practice where there's no tackling. But based on kind of what everyone said, that part was good. The secondary was definitely concerning. And then I would say it was a little bit concerning, kind of some of the incompletions that we were seeing from Kyler to Marv.
Did Josh Sweat practice that day?
Yes, he did. He did, and he had some nice moments. Got to the quarterback a few times.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, obviously we've been all waiting. That's the biggest acquisition for the Arizona Cardinals in this last offseason, at least in free agency. So yeah, we've been waiting. So you did see a glimpse of him, and he looked pretty good, you said?
Yeah. I was mostly on the offensive side, admittedly, but I was over there on a little bit on the field where the Cardinals were defensive starters were going, and Sweat was making some plays, and then I was talking to one of the Broncos reporters who was over there the whole time, and he like I'm probably just asked who's looking good on the Cardinals D line. He goes 10, 55, and 56 were his 3. So that's Josh Sweat, Dante Stills, and Darius Robinson were kind of the 3 guys he highlighted without even knowing anything about the Cardinals depth chart. That's who he picked out, which like to me says a lot about Dante Stills. That if you're picking out who's looking good from that D line, you're picking out this guy who's most people see as a backup. He's at a good camp. He's a guy that I think deserves a shout out for kind of what he's done over this past month.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Dante Stills has always been a guy, especially since he's been drafted to the Cardinals. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a fourth rounder a couple years back. He's been somebody that just kind of waiting for his opportunity, but he's been given full effort. Like he puts it all out there, and I really do like his play. So I'm glad he's now starting to kind of get recognized outside of obviously the Arizona Cardinals, fandom slash organization. So that's really cool to see. Darius Robinson, we're all expecting a big jump for him as well. So excited to hear that as well. Because this is the reason why we started with this because I remember when I originally posted the video about kind of like recapping and kind of what I've been seeing online in terms of reports. There was some people out there that were saying, "Well, people were reporting that they were dominant," and I'm talking about the offense. That the offense was dominant. Would you say, other than Trey McBride, the offense was dominant for the Arizona Cardinals, or would you not?
I would not. I forget who I was talking to, if it was Cardinals reporter or Broncos reporter. After practice, we were kind of trying to put a grade on the Cardinals offense. And we kind of all landed like 6 out of 10, 6.5, 7 out of 10. Now, I talked to 3 different Broncos reporters who all said that this is the best any team has looked against the Broncos starting defense, because they might have the best defense in the league, right?
Yeah.
So that's the comparison points for reference. Training camp against their own offense. Then they had joint practices, one joint practice in a preseason game the week prior against the 49ers. And then they had this joint practice against the Cardinals. So talking to
I'm
3 Broncos reporters, they all said that the Cardinals offense looked better against the Broncos defense than the Broncos offense or 49ers offense had.
Ooh,
Now,
go ahead.
now it was still inconsistent. Like,
Yeah.
they looked better than 2 offenses that had looked really bad against that defense. Still inconsistent. As I said, I think I put this out there. Kyler Murray was 4 for 8 throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. I think throwing to everyone else combined, he was 4 for 11. So a lot of that was
Oh,
carried, and that includes a few throwaways and
yeah.
stuff. But a lot of that was carried by Trey McBride.
Yeah.
But still, the fact that they were able to move the ball against a really good defense, their offensive line mostly held up again against a really good defense. I think there are positives certainly to take away. I think a 6 out of 10 performance against maybe the best defense in the league is probably a positive.
Yeah, no, and I was gonna say, I mean, I would definitely take a 6 or 7 out of 10 for sure. I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the best defenses in the league for sure. And on top of that, the Broncos joint practice a lot. So this is the first time we had a different look of a completely different team, and kind of obviously going as 100% as you can go on these type of things. Obviously, you can't touch the quarterback of the opposing team, but I'll take it. It's just the reason why I brought this up is because that was the first thing I remember. Oh, these guys said it was dominant, and I was like, I don't know if it was. I mean, I think that Trey McBride was dominant, or at least that's what I'm getting.
Yes, I would say Trey McBride was dominant. It's really hard to get a gauge of the run game.
Yeah.
There were a few plays though that it looked like James Conner would have broken a big run, just because you can kind of sort of tell when, okay, there's guys around him and they let up. There were a few though, like outside runs and stuff, where just nobody got near him.
Yeah.
So it seemed like the O line was doing pretty well in the run game. I would say those 2 things you could maybe put that dominant label, but overall I would not put that label. I would put the good but inconsistent label.
I mean, that's kind of seems what happened in the end of last year too. But we'll see what happens here. Let me ask you this, man. Let me ask you this. When it comes down to the starters, Jonathan Gannon left it open, right? Kind of the mystery of Jonathan Gannon. In your own opinion, do you think starters will be playing? Like what you're seeing, I know he says it's going to depend on what happens in these practices this week. Do you see a world where we do see starters in Week 3 versus the Raiders?
I would be shocked. I guess the one argument that maybe you could say they would be that last week would be an aberration and they rested the starters because they had the joint practice. They didn't want to have them to have high speed reps twice in 3 days. There's
Right.
a chance that that's how they saw things. But the fact that they didn't play them last week to me means more than likely the starters are done for the preseason.
Yeah.
And right, Jonathan Gannon's MO since he got here until this year has been not to play starters in preseason. So to go from not playing starters in preseason at all to playing them twice in preseason, including that last game, that would really surprise me. But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a chance that he wants his offense to show a little bit more consistency before week 1. I mean, that's why his offense played against the Chiefs, right? It was to kind of break out some of those break off some of that early season rust. But no, I would put it at like a 5% chance
Ooh,
that
man.
they play on Saturday.
Oh, Clayton Tune show. Here we come. Oh God. Okay. Well, let's talk about the injured players.
Yeah, everyone can clear their Saturday night schedule after the first quarter, especially.
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby's been looking good. He's been the highlight of
Yeah,
obviously week
yes.
2, and then but it's just the majority of Clayton Tune. I was doing a live stream with my audience, and I kid you not, I was so hard not to end the stream on the halftime or the third quarter. I lasted for a good majority of the fourth, so I guess that's pretty good. But let me ask you
That's a
about the
win.
injured. Yeah, it's a win. Let me ask you about the injured players for the Cardinals. Obviously, 3 of them ended up starting off on the PUP list. Ojulari, Nolan, 16th overall pick this year, and then Nichols. What are your overall thoughts? I've heard a couple different rumors or speculations about they might not start off in week 1. What is your overall thoughts? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I put out every week I put out a roster projection during training camp, and I guess I wrote mine on this last one on Sunday, and I had a lot of those injured guys on the 53-man roster, and then I was sitting there today and I was like, that was probably a mistake. Like I had a lot of injured guys here, and I'm like, I just kind of by default been including Walter Nolan and Will Hernandez and Justin Jones, and I'm looking up. It's like cut day is in 6 days. I don't know that you can. So one thing is you only throughout a season you can only have 8 guys on IR who return that season. So you don't want to include a guy on the roster next week on Tuesday when they have their cut downs. There's a bunch of downsides, but like take a guy like Walter Nolan. You don't want to include him on the roster and then a week later be like, actually, he has to go on IR designated to return because you're using up one of your 8 guys that can return this season. Plus, that means you're cutting someone else. Like
Right.
that might be the difference between cutting LJ Collier or not, or PJ Mustafa. Who knows? Like
Right.
you're cutting someone, exposing someone to waivers so that you can keep them. So I don't know. I mean, I think those guys who are on PU. So there's another difference here. So you have the roster mechanics. Guys, you can have 2 guys who are on injured reserve designated to return. PUP is different. PUP is guys who were injured before the start of training
Right.
camp, and those guys, there's no limit. As many as you want can return. So a guy like Will Hernandez, BJ Ojulari, Bilal Nichols, Walter Nolan, all those guys are on PUP and don't take up those 2 spots. I mean, at this point, like certainly the guys who have been out since last season, like it would shock me if BJ Ojulari, Gannon said today he's doing well in his
Right.
rehab. I mean, he got injured 13 months ago and he's not back on the practice field. He's not doing well.
Yeah.
But Bilal Nichols had a stinger 10 months ago and
Yeah.
he's not on the practice field. He's been like jogging around with the team and stuff. But like those 2 guys, I mean, I think there's basically a 0% chance they're going to be ready. And then like Will Hernandez and Walter Nolan at this point, I would guess that both probably start the season on the PUP. I don't I don't know, man. Walter's the question mark. Like, if you think he's going to be able to return to practice, say September 15th, then it's a really interesting conversation. Like,
Right.
because if you're on IR, you can't return to practice for 4 weeks. So
Right.
that's saying can't return to practice till like I don't know the second week of October or something. Do you want to take away 3 weeks of his practicing? Like again, if you think that the return is September 15th. So I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too in the weeds here, but like I think there's a chance that they have him on the active roster, even if they think he's not going to be ready for the start of the season, just so that they don't lose those crucial
Right.
few weeks of practice. Again, he lost training camp, right? So you, with a guy like that, like you might think, okay, we need to get this guy practicing as soon as possible for the sake of his development, even if it's almost a wasted 53-man roster spot for a few weeks. So that's the one that, yeah, it could be interesting. But like all the other ones, man, I kind of think at this point, like 2 weeks from now, it's a Wednesday leading into a game week. It's
Right.
like real in 2 weeks.
Easy.
That's not much time. So like all these guys, like even the guys who got injured during training camp, during preseason, Hayden Connor, Christian Jones,
Yeah.
Justin Jones. Like at this point, I lean towards all those guys not being ready for cut day on Tuesday.
Wow, and that makes it, like you said earlier, it makes it to where LJ Collier, right, it can make the spot, right, because of these open positions here for them. But yeah, this is very fascinating. And when you said you get too much into the weeds, but you kind of have to, like, these are the speculations, these are the things you have to think about because
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about the
yeah,
roster. Like for example, the Christian Jones, Hayden Connor, Justin Jones, all three of those guys are on IR because they got hurt during training camp or
right,
preseason. So that's different from PUP. Only if you put those guys on IR to start the season, only two of them can be designated to return. That means one of those guys you have to end their season. Or what you can do is you can have them on the initial roster, waive somebody. Like the Cardinals will often waive Aaron Brewer, their long snapper, and then you bring him back 2 days later after you place someone on IR.
yeah,
Like Aaron Brewer's been waived a bunch of times in his career just because they know no one's going to claim a long snapper. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. But yeah, it's getting to a point where it's like, okay, season is coming. These guys aren't practicing, and it's not. You can't just show up. These guys can't just show up and play in a game, right?
right,
There's a return to play period where they need a few weeks of ramping up at practice. Usually, when a guy comes off IR, it's not that first week that they are ready to play in a game. They ramp up for a week or two. So if you're thinking about it right now, like say Walter Nolan returned tomorrow, he still, I guess he would probably be ready for week one, but it's like, yeah, you have to build in that time for a
yeah.
guy to ramp up. It's not immediate. Oh, he's healthy now. He's playing in a game.
100%. No, yeah, definitely. You're right. And then you got that whole, I guess that thought of the whole Darius Robinson situation where we brought him back and then oh man, or not in the game, but like obviously re-aggravated it as well. So you got to make sure,
Yeah.
especially with those calf injuries, that you got to bring him back when he's fully 100%, right? Don't rush him because you don't want to have another situation like Darius. But Darius, at least per what we're hearing, in camp and training camp and all that stuff, he's supposed to be taking the next step, or at least have a big play on this defensive line. Let me move on over to the next topic here, just for the sake of time. Biggest concerns, and I want to give a shout out here to you because every time in these press conferences, you ask some really good questions. And this is probably even going back to, I think, last year. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, but there was a very specific play that was very in the back of my mind. And I believe you're the one who actually asked about it. It was a play action, it was an RPO that there was nobody blocking somebody, or like there was somebody that came off on the edge, and you asked Drew Petzing like straight up, like what was he supposed to do if this happened, right? And it was just a long-winded answer, but like you also asked about depth. But these are the things that I'm asking as well. So let me ask you real quick: what is your biggest concerns when you're looking at this roster for the Arizona Cardinals?
Yeah, I would say depth is one of them.
Yeah,
I asked Jonathan Gannon today, as you mentioned, about the depth, and he goes, "Well, nobody's really happy with their depth at every position." Yeah, that's not really the most reassuring answer, is it?
Denver is.
Like if you're pleased with your depth and
Yeah,
someone asks that question, you say, "Oh yeah, I'm happy with it." To
right.
say, "Oh, I like it at some spots, but no one's really happy with their depth at every position." Okay, that's a little bit of a raises an eyebrow.
Yeah,
So like there's some spots. Wide receiver. If Marvin Harrison Jr. or Michael Wilson gets hurt, and even Michael Wilson hasn't shown up at all really in training camp, and it's not a criticism of him. It's just the offense has run completely through McBride and Harrison. Like if Marv misses 3 games, who are they throwing the ball to other than Trey McBride? That's an area where I'm concerned about depth. Cornerback, because of the injuries to Starling Thomas and Sean Murphy Bunting, it's like, man, if Max Melton or Will Johnson misses a couple of games, I don't know what you're doing.
right.
Um, Interior offensive line will be okay once Will Hernandez gets back. That's a spot that worries me for now. Inside linebacker, if Mac Wilson goes down, so there's a few spots where I'm concerned. And people, you don't like to think about this stuff on August 20th, but injuries are going to happen.
Yeah.
You're not making it through a season healthy. So like those are the things you have to think about. So that stuff concerns me. And then an area where I don't want to say, like, I don't think it's going to be worse than it was last year. But compared to the beginning of training camp, I am pessimistic about like the explosiveness of the passing of offense, because I think Trey McBride's gonna have an awesome season again. But like the Cardinals last year, I think I wrote this earlier in the week, they ranked like 24th in explosive passing plays last year.
Wow.
Uh, Compared to 2021, they ranked seventh, right? They used to have that in their offense. Kyler used to be great downfield. It's like that has not consistently shown up in training camp. Like there was a play against the Broncos in the joint practice where it was a broken play. Kyler rolled out. They lost McBride, and Kyler hit him downfield. It would have been like a 70-yard touchdown. Like so there's been some moments, but it hasn't happened consistently enough. I think Kyler's been a little bit inaccurate downfield. Like to me, it looks a lot like it did last year, where they keep having Marv run these downfield routes, and it's either, okay, he's covered, so Kyler's throwing it out of bounds because Marv's covered. Marv's losing a jump ball. Marv has a step, but Kyler misses him. Like it just looks the same. So I don't think it's going to be worse. But like coming into training camp, I was like, oh, I really think Marv might take this visible jump, and the Cardinals have an above average explosive downfield passing offense again, like they did, at the peak of Cliff's years. And I haven't seen that. And so look, they finished 11th in points per game last year. I think Drew Petzing gets probably too much criticism. I think people want the offense to be better. I don't know. People are always going to want the offense to be top five. So I don't want to make it sound like the Cardinals are going to have a bad offense, but I think if you're looking at the explosiveness of the passing attack and kind of this vision that you're going to be able to marry the awesome run game they had last year with a great deep downfield passing attack like they had in 2021, I haven't seen that yet. And maybe it just takes till the second half of the season to develop, but that's it's to me been a yellow flag from training camp.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you brought this up because I ended up having Donnie Druin from SI and Tyler Drake of Arizona Sports on it's kind of something similar, just kind of chop it up and like kind of getting a gauge on what they feel like. And I've asked them the exact same question, what you just pointed out. The offense seems to be strictly running through McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. That's exactly what I see when I went to training camp as well. And I don't feel like there is a big enough, I guess, noise or commotion about it because, of course, you get those those plays that actually work. But that concerns me a lot as well, where you're not really throwing the ball to Michael Wilson. I think Michael Wilson's a very solid number 2 wide receiver. Of course, he's got the rep outside of the organization that, he's a number 3. But like when given the opportunity, he shines. He's pretty solid. I'm not going to say he's going to have 1,000 yards. I'm not that crazy, but like he's solid. I don't know why we're not exploring more and why it's taking this long to develop an offense to now implement Marvin, but kind of still forgetting about the other guys that are on this wide receiving core like Zay Jones or Dortch and Michael Wilson. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Why do you think that it is?
I don't. I mean, it is training camp, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. Like in the preseason game, I think Kyler had 8 pass attempts, and I think 2 of them might have been to Wilson. There was a really nice end around to Dortch, who juked a few people. So like, I don't know. Maybe we'll see it more than we've seen it in camp. But you're right. Like in camp, the offense has been over 60% of the targets to McBride and Harrison, which is like a crazy amount of the targets for 2 players to combine for.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Let's hope that it's just vanilla, right? That we're just putting vanilla stuff and kind of getting the chemistry.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, right? Like you're not using your whole playbook
right
in training camp or in a joint practice session or a preseason game. It is fairly simple. But I haven't, like, I really wanted to see an explosive downfield passing offense, or you're moving. And this is like I think Monty Ossenford had a great offseason, but I really wanted to see the Cardinals add not even a number 2 wide receiver, but like a guy who could play 50% of the snaps and be a downfield speed threat. There were some guys like that in the draft class: Trey Harris, Jalen Lane, Torrey Holt,
yeah,
the guy in Seattle who's having a good camp. There are a bunch of guys like that who I highlighted in the pre-draft, and and there were a bunch of guys like that in free agency too that are the kind of downfield threats. And I think that could have added that element where, okay, now instead of having Marvin Harrison Jr. run that route, you're having someone else clear the defense. Marv's coming underneath. The defense has to decide, all right, do we want to protect against this third receiver who's really freaking fast downfield and maybe open up Marv on a 15-yard crosser, or do we want to double Marv and now they can hit us over the top with a 50-yard bat? Like, I don't think the Cardinals necessarily have the personnel to create that conflict. And so you see what you saw last year, which is Marv is running a 9 route 30 yards downfield. He has B speed instead of A speed. Now you're asking him to catch a jump ball, which is a difficult proposition, even with the muscle that he's put on. And you don't have anyone coming open down. Like, it seemed like that would have been a low investment with a cheap free agent ad or a 4th-round pick that could have added a lot to the offense in terms of the explosiveness and kind of the variety in which they could have used Marvin. Without that, I'm like, all right, where is the offense going to be different this year in terms of the explosiveness? So again, I still think it can be a good offense. I think it can be top 10 offense, but the explosiveness element has been missing to me in camp.
No, and I agree. And I think that, maybe the Zay Jones effect, that he was gone for 5 weeks because of the suspension last year, they're probably leaning on him a lot. I think because right now it definitely seems that he's number 3, right? Or at least Greg Dortch.
Well, I mean, it depends on the personnel. Like, if it's a typical 3 wide 11 personnel slot guy, Greg Dortch is probably the slot guy. But like, Marv will play 20% of the snaps at slot. If Dortch isn't really going to play in the slot or sorry, on the outside, so like you'll see Marv in the slot and Zay on the outside. You'll see 4 wide every once in a while. I think both Dortch and Zay will probably play.
Mix it up.
30 to 50% of snaps.
Yeah, and Xavier Weaver, I was very, very high on him and very excited about him as well. I think he had some couple flashes here and there in training camp, but I don't think enough to kind of get you pumped up, right? I mean, what do you think about that?
Speed. He has that speed that's the missing element. So it'd be nice to see him take that jump, but Gannon's kind of called him out a few times for not being consistent enough actually catching the ball. Yeah. We see that in training camp, in preseason too. Like, he comes open a decent amount, but he had a bad drop in Denver. I think he does a lot of things really well, but I think I don't know that he's really ready yet to. I mean, I would imagine he'll make the roster. I don't know that he's really ready yet to take on any significant share of the snaps.
All right. Well, we'll end it there. Theo, I absolutely appreciate it. I want to go ahead and give you an opportunity here to let everybody know where they can find your work, what your plans are for 2025, and where they can find your work.
Yeah, so azcentral.com under this football or a Cardinals tab or whatever it is. That's all me. And then on Twitter, it's my name. So THEO_MACKIE is my Twitter handle. So those are 2 places to find me.
All right, perfect. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. Make sure everybody check them out. AZ Central, all the articles, all that to you.
Yeah, well, it's not all me, but that's where my stuff is.
Gotcha. All right, Theo, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so very much, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and as always, go Cardinals.